Why does life seem so unfair? Why do people who cheat, lie, and ignore God seem to rise to the top, while those who try to do the right thing struggle? If you've ever wrestled with these questions, you're not alone. Even in the Bible, faithful men and women question God's justice, wondering why the wicked prosper while the righteous suffer. And perhaps no one captured this frustration better than Asaph in Psalm 73. At first, he couldn't understand it. He looked around and saw the wealthy growing richer, the corrupt thriving, and the arrogant living without consequences. Meanwhile, those who honored God faced hardship after hardship. It didn't make sense until something shifted. Asaph had a revelation that changed everything. What he discovered wasn't just an answer to his doubts. It was a powerful truth that can transform how we see life's injustices today. What if the success of the wicked is an illusion? What if what looks like prosperity is actually a trap? And what if the real blessing, the one that lasts forever, is something far greater than money or power? Psalm 73 holds the answer. Let's uncover it together. Life has a way of throwing curveballs, doesn't it? You try to walk the right path, do what's right, and yet, it feels like those who cut corners, lie, or manipulate always get ahead. It's frustrating, even disheartening. This very struggle is laid out in Psalm 73, where the psalmist wrestles with the age-old question, why do the wicked prosper while the righteous suffer? If you've ever looked around and felt like life is unfair, you're not alone. This question has been asked for centuries. It's easy to feel resentment when you see someone who mocks faith and still seems to have everything: money, influence, success. Meanwhile, those who dedicate their lives to prayer and follow the teachings of the Bible face setbacks, trials, and loss. If God is just, how can this be? The tension between faith and reality can shake even the strongest believer. But that's exactly where Psalm 73 leads us, through a journey of doubt, discovery, and deeper trust in God's plan. If you've ever thought, why do I even bother doing what's right? You're not alone. The Bible captures these emotions with raw honesty. The psalmist isn't afraid to question, to struggle, to express frustration. And that's important. Faith isn't about blind acceptance, but about wrestling with truth. But what happens when this internal struggle grows too loud? What did the psalmist Asaph do when faced with these doubts? Let's step into his shoes and see how his perspective shifted. Asaph, a faithful servant of God, found himself trapped in a storm of doubt. He had dedicated his life to holiness, to seeking God, to living righteously. Yet, what did he see? The wicked thriving while the faithful suffered. He couldn't help but ask himself, is it even worth it? His prayers felt unanswered, his sacrifices unnoticed. If you've ever felt like your efforts to follow God's ways weren't paying off, Asaph would understand you completely. The internal battle was intense. He tried to silence the nagging voice that whispered, you're wasting your time. But the more he observed, the louder the doubts became. How could a just God allow this? How could he watch the proud rise while the humble fall? Asaph wasn't a casual believer. He was a Levite, a worship leader in the temple. Yet, even he was shaken. His crisis of faith wasn't just a passing thought. It consumed him, making him question everything he believed. Maybe you felt that too, watching dishonest people climb the ladder while you struggle to get by, seeing others mock prayer while their lives seem perfect. Asaph was there, but something shifted. Instead of letting doubt consume him, he took a crucial step that changed everything. What was it? Let's dive deeper. As Asaph looked around, the evidence seemed overwhelming. The wicked had it all. They were strong, healthy, and free from the burdens that plagued others. No sleepless nights over unpaid bills. No struggles with sickness or sorrow. Their confidence was unshaken, their arrogance even rewarded. And the worst part? They mocked God, dismissing the power of prayer, and yet, their success only seemed to grow. It was as if the world was upside down. This wasn't just Asaph's imagination. Even today, we see the same thing. People who cheat their way to the top, influencers spreading empty promises, leaders who abuse power while the honest struggle. It's easy to think, what's the point of doing what's right? If those who ignore God's teachings are living in luxury while the faithful face hardships, doesn't that prove righteousness is in vain? These thoughts gnawed at Asaph, pulling him deeper into doubt. But what if he was only seeing part of the picture? What if the prosperity of the wicked wasn't as secure as it appeared? Sometimes, what looks like success is just a well-decorated illusion. Asaph was about to experience a radical shift in perspective. one that would reveal a truth hidden behind the curtain of earthly success. And that moment came when he did something that changed everything. Asaph was drowning in doubt until he did something simple yet profound. He stepped into God's sanctuary. In that sacred space, everything changed. It wasn't that the wicked suddenly lost their riches or that the righteous instantly prospered. No, something deeper happened. His eyes were opened. He saw beyond the surface and realized the prosperity of the wicked was temporary, like a castle built on sand. The success they clung to was fragile, destined to crumble. That moment in the sanctuary was more than just attending a religious gathering. It was a shift in vision. Sometimes, when life feels unfair, the best thing we can do is step away from the noise and realign our perspective. It could be through deep prayer, studying the Bible, or simply quieting our minds before God. When Asaph did this, he stopped looking at the world's temporary rewards and started seeing eternal truth. It's easy to envy the wicked when we focus only on the present. But what if we zoomed out? What if we saw not just their wealth, but their ultimate destiny? Asaph realized that, without God, their prosperity was a trap, one that would lead to destruction. This realization shook him. It forced him to rethink everything. And as his perspective shifted, something even greater began to happen within him. With his eyes now open, Asaph felt something stir within him, renewed faith. The doubts that once tormented him began to fade as he recognized a powerful truth. God had never abandoned him. Even in his confusion, even in his questioning, God was always there, guiding him. He realized that true security wasn't found in wealth or success, but in God's presence. The peace he had been searching for wasn't in having an easy life. It was in knowing he was walking with God. This shift in perspective is something we all need. When we measure success by the world's standards, we set ourselves up for disappointment. But when we see life through the lens of eternity, everything changes. Asaph now understood that being close to God was worth more than anything the wicked could gain. It was like standing in the middle of a storm, yet feeling unshaken because he was anchored in something greater. Prayer, faith, and trust became his foundation. Maybe you felt distant from God, wondering if he sees your struggles. Asaph's journey reminds us that doubts don't disqualify us. They can lead us deeper. His story didn't end in frustration, but in renewed confidence. And as he embraced this truth, he discovered something even more profound: the difference between temporary prosperity and eternal blessing. Asaph now understood what had been hidden from him before. Prosperity without God is an illusion. The wicked may seem untouchable, but their success is like a vapor, here today and gone tomorrow. True blessings aren't measured in wealth or status, but in something far greater: a life anchored in God's eternal promises. The riches of this world can vanish in an instant, but the rewards of faith are unshakable. Asaph no longer envied the wicked. He pitied them. Think about it. How many powerful people have fallen overnight? How many celebrities, politicians, or business moguls have crumbled under the weight of their own success? The world glorifies wealth, yet so many who achieve it end up lost, empty, and broken. Asaph's revelation was clear. Without God, even the richest person is spiritually bankrupt. What good is prosperity if it leads to destruction? That's why he chose something different, something eternal. This truth should shake us awake. Instead of chasing fleeting success, we should be seeking something that lasts, a deeper connection with God. This isn't about rejecting material blessings. It's about recognizing what truly matters. And when we shift our focus, something incredible happens. Our trust in God's justice grows, even when life seems unfair. Trusting God's justice isn't always easy. Asaph wrestled with it, and so do we. When the wicked seem to thrive while the faithful struggle, doubt creeps in. But Psalm 73 reminds us that God's judgment is perfect, even if we don't see it immediately. The wicked may look untouchable, but their foundation is crumbling. Meanwhile, those who trust in God are being strengthened for something far greater: a life built on eternal truth. Imagine watching a race where someone cheats to get ahead. At first, it seems unfair, but what they don't realize is that the finish line isn't where they think it is. God sees beyond the temporary. He knows how every story ends. That's why Asaph no longer envied the wicked. He understood that their success was an illusion. What truly matters is not how high someone climbs in this world, but whether they're walking with God. This realization should bring us peace. We don't need to carry the weight of trying to make sense of everything. God is in control. Our job is to stay close to Him, seek His wisdom, and trust that His justice will prevail. And when we fully grasp this, we can't keep it to ourselves. This is a message that needs to be shared. Some truths are too powerful to keep to ourselves. Asaf's journey from doubt to faith is one that so many people need to hear. How many are struggling right now, feeling like life is unfair? How many are questioning why the wicked prosper while they suffer? Psalm 73 is a message of hope, and it's our responsibility to share it. Just like Asaph found peace in God's presence, others can too, if we point them in the right direction. Think about someone in your life who might need to hear this. A friend going through financial struggles, a family member battling discouragement, or even someone who's drifted from faith because they feel forgotten. Imagine what could happen if they discovered the truth, that God is still in control, that His justice is perfect, and that true prosperity comes from walking with Him. A simple conversation, a shared Bible passage, or an invitation to pray together could change everything. And that's why this community exists, to spread the truth, strengthen faith, and remind each other that we are never alone. When we encourage one another, we grow stronger. When we share God's word, we bring light to those in darkness. And as we do, we step into something greater, a life aligned with God's eternal plan. Now, let's take this message and put it into action. As you reflect on the truths from Psalm 73, ask yourself, where do you place your trust? In the temporary success of this world, or in the eternal promises of God? Life may not always seem fair, but if we remember that God's justice is perfect, it changes everything. When we stop envying the wicked and start focusing on our relationship with God, we begin to experience a peace that the world can't offer. So what's your next step? Will you trust God's plan even when things don't make sense? Will you share this message of hope with someone who's struggling? Psalm 73 teaches us that God sees all, and His justice will prevail. As we walk closer to Him, we find peace, purpose, and a future far beyond what we can imagine. If you've been encouraged, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. There's so much more to learn together on this journey of faith. Let's continue exploring how God works in our lives. And remember, the best is yet to come.